Good morning, everyone. I am Jenna Jane Satonis Election, and I am tasked to talk about the global village and cultural imperialism and the critics of cultural imperialism. So, to start off, let us first talk about the global village and cultural imperialism. So, the word global village was coined by Marshall McLuhan, a media and communication theorist, in 1967 to describe the phenomenon of the world's culture shrinking and expanding at the same time due to pervasive technological advances that allow for instantaneous sharing of culture. So, kani si McLuhan kay iya nga gi-use iya nga analysis sa technology para mag-examine o mag-study about how electronic media impacts the people. So he mainly analyzed the social changes brought about by television. So ihang gistudihan kay around that time 1960s kay nasikat ani nga panahon na is mga TVs. He then declared nga ang television daw kay giturn ang world into a global village in which nga ihang gipasabot ani is as more as nakadaghan ang mga tao nga molingkod atubangan sa ilang TV ug maminaw ug mutanaw sa same nga mga balita, mga stories, ang ilaha nga pagtan-aw or how they perceive the world would expand and contract. So mo wide ang ilaha nga perception sa world. So after pila ka years ni Makluhan, there are media scholars who further discuss the challenges of global media culture. So a lot of these people thought or assumed nga ang global media kay naay dako nga tsansa nga mo dominate sa other culture or simply homogenize other culture. So as those scholars argued nga as long as global media would spread daw, people from around the world or mga tao sa kalibutan maminaw o mutanaw sa same nga story, they would possibly lead to cultural imperialism. What is cultural imperialism, Di? So cultural imperialism is when powerful cultures so generously shares their waste with smaller and less powerful places around the world. It is also when a particular culture is forced into a country wherein it will begin to dominate the local culture of the place. So kani nga panghunahuna or kani nga discussion kay na arose ni siya around the time nga America's culture or America's power was super sikat or na-heighten siya around the world. So, cultural heavyweight ang America at this time. So, a lot of people believe nga media globalization coupled with the American heavyweight or cultural influence America, it would create a form of cultural imperialism wherein ang Amerika maoy ang American values and culture would dominate the other culture in the world. In 1976, Herbert Schiller kay-giargue niya nga not only was the world Americanized but it could also lead sa pagpakatag sa American capitalist value wherein ang economic system uh, is actually based sa America and the means of production and their operation for profit, which includes the capital, competitive markets, price system, property rights, wage labor, and many more. Similarly to Schiller, naapoy isa ka tao which is John Tomlinson nga niingon nga ang cultural globalization is simply a euphemism for Western cultural imperialism since nag-promote ni siya og homogenized, westernized consumer culture. So those scholars who always talk about the cultural imperialism, however, have a very narrow view of the media since they are more concerned with the structures nga mo determine sa media content. So the scholars were more focused on America, which had led them to neglect other global flows of information that the media can enable. This cultural imperialism theory has therefore been a subject to significant critics. So let us now talk about the critics of cultural imperialism. So the proponents of the cultural imperialism ignore the fact that the media messages are not just made by producers, they are also consumed by audiences. So media scholars in 1980s kinagsugod na og pay attention sa mga pamaagi or ways on how the audiences understood or interpreted the media messages. So the study emphasizes that media consumers or watchers kay involved sa meaning-making process, wherein they view the text or the content in their respective cultural lenses. So in 1985, In Ang, an Indonesian cultural critic, studied the ways in which different viewers in the Netherlands experienced watching the American movie Dallas. Naghatag siya og very detailed nga analysis sa audience viewing experiences from the letters of 42 viewers that watched the American soap opera Dallas. She noted nga ang mga viewers daw put a lot of emotional energy or they were emotionally involved into the process of watching the soap opera Dallas, and they experienced pleasure based on how the program touched and resonated with them. Elihu Katz and Tamar Liebes in 1990 pushed Ang's analysis further by examining how viewers from distinct cultural communities interpreted Dallas. Ilahang gi-argue nga text or contents are received differently by varied communities or people because they derive different meanings and pleasures from this text. So that means that different people with different cultural backgrounds had their own ways of understanding the show. They had their own ways of interpreting the content or the text of the show. So in their study, they found out that Russians were suspicious of the show's content. They believed nga not only it was primarily about America, it also contains the American propaganda wherein ang mga American viewers kay nituo nga ang show kay mostly about sa kinabuhi sa mga dato. Aside from Western media who spread through media globalization, there are also other cultures which spread with the help of media. An example of this is Asian culture. An example of this are Japanese brands such as Hello Kitty, Pokemon, animated movies, and animes, which is now part of popular culture that is spread globally. Another example of this is Korean pop and Korean telenovelas or K-dramas, which are widely successful regionally and globally. So given that there is no need to push nga ang globalization is a unidirectional process or a one-way process wherein foreign cultures would overwhelm local ones. Globalization will always remain an uneven process, and because it's not perfect, it will produce inequalities.